Welcome to Transformers, a program that is specially designed to be able to bring together a number of professionals from the HR profession to discuss their life and work and to be able to understand of how these building blocks of HR is brought together to be able to transform organizations and necessarily the country as a whole. Today we have with us an old friend, an HR professional, Head of HR, Carson's Management Services, Bennett, Patternott. How are you, sir?
Keeping fine, thank you.
It has been quite a while that we've been together.
Almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years. Organizational design, Pat, is what we are going to talk about today, and the value of a job design. And I thought you are the perfect person with many years of experience to take us through this entire process of organization design and job design. Where would we start?
Right. Thank you. You see, if I draw my experience from a startup to a matured company, then or to businesses which are going through restructuring, the fundamental thing in organizational design is you start from how do you create value.
Okay.
So you find every business is, at the end of the day, is a creation of value that is either sold in the form of a product or a service. So what you need to understand is what are those critical aspects where that you create the value. So you are arranging those in such a manner where you would make a smooth functioning. So therefore the emergence of job rising out of these value points.
Okay.
So sometimes you may be able to understand, sometimes when you are doing a business, you try to have a competitive edge over the others in the game.
Yes.
Thereby you may try to see with the competences that would create you better than the others.
Okay.
So therefore you will try to figure it out, what are the competencies and what are the core competences the organization should have.
Okay.
Therefore that when you have the core competences, every job must carry some flavor of it.
Yes.
Some jobs at a higher end, some jobs at the medium end,
Yes.
at the lower. Then of course every job has technical as well as the behavioral competencies. Now Niroshan, we must understand this. One is, every job has a technical job. I'm speaking to you.
Absolutely.
Now I should complement my behavior to make it better speech. That is what the behavioral competencies come from. So therefore it is important for a business, an organization, or the HR people, get the line managers to understand that aspect and to look at a job from those perspectives.
Okay.
What competencies that make the job would add value to your business, value creation.
Okay. From a practical point of view, Pat, most often in this industry, people talk to the person who is doing a job and then they ask that person, can you tell me what you are doing so that I can write your job description? And these job descriptions are then spruced up. But at the end of the day, you are asking that person what you are doing right now, not value they will bring into what ought to be done.
That's right.
Where do we begin with all of this?
Right. You see, you can think in terms of, if you are trying to interview the person who is doing the job, you virtually trying to believe that your industry or your organization remains static.
Yes.
So when the dynamism comes in, you will find some of the jobs disappear no matter what, because of the new technology that are coming in, new customer expectations or the existing customers' better expectations from the market, what the competitors do. Therefore, there is a lot of contextual side that should come into play. So therefore, it's all right you interview the guy, you collect the data what he's doing, but be futuristic.
That's right.
That is where you bring the dynamism, you build the business that would last, that would take the business to the future. And also the person who is performing the job, he's futuristic. So therefore, that's where I think that when you are preparing a job description, you should not limit to what the existing or the incumbent is doing.
Yes.
You should be able to figure it out, even doing some benchmark. You get the best practices elsewhere. Look outside and look at how the industry dynamics work. Look at the other peripheral technology that are changing that would influence your organization.
Yes.
And those things must be sort of key things that the HR guys should be keeping an eye on.
Absolutely. Which is why I actually brought this organization design with job design.
That's right.
Because most people think they're two different subjects.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the alignment, it doesn't add value.
It's true. Now we say, for an example, if I'm not trying to be damn academic here, to be very pragmatic, you find when you are in a dynamic business setting, your livelihood or your sustainability depends on how competitive you are. So you can compete by way of innovation, or you can compete by your operational excellence. Those are the two components that work. Now each one of them need little bit beyond what you are doing right now.
Yes.
Therefore, there is no point you are preparing a JD and a job specification, hire a person to a static job, because the job is to be futuristic. You must hire a person with looking at what are the capabilities that person would have in terms of this future job, emergence job categories.
Yes.
So that is where I think the job description, organization design, as you said, there is this kind of relationship.
That's right.
That's how it comes.
That's right. Now, Pat, from the viewpoint of an HR professional, how do you believe that they ought to be getting the right competencies so that they can align this better?
Yeah, that's a good question. That is something, some of the HR professionals should take a serious note of that, from my experience too. Sometimes we think that we are HR and we belong to a particular group. I think every HR guy should be able to be an industry expert in which that he operates.
Yes.
Now, supposing if I'm working for plantation, I should know what the plantation industry is all about.
Yeah.
It is not your own organization, the entire industry. And also, what are the other industries which are complementary or which are competing with you? Now, if you get a good understanding of that, you should be able to do that. That is what Ulrich says, outsider in.
Yeah.
You must be able to find out exactly what's the outside market is looking for. What are the competencies that your customer is looking in you? So therefore, I think he was right. Yeah. For the simple reason, because every HR guy should be an expert of that particular industry.
That's right.
If you limit yourself to mere HR architecture, you would not be able to do a little bit of value addition to business.
That's right.
So therefore, stretching yourself, get to know what's the industry and what are the emerging industry dynamics, and you should be able to then help the line managers to prepare this competency set. If not, you can always just go to an outsider, buy something on the shelf. But it's okay buying on the shelf, but try to put it in moderation. That would make difference to your business.
That's right. And that's important. Now, if you look at from the viewpoint of, you're talking about a startup business to a successfully running business to a merger acquisition, how does this entire process of organization design that will fluctuate work with job design?
Yeah. Say, for an example, now, let me give you an example of that. Take hotel industry. Okay. There are hotels, city hotels, with 500 rooms. Then some people, what they do is they design the organization based on some of the industry norms. We say so many rooms, so many employees. But take another, we say hotel, which is eco-centered. Like, for an example, if I have the permission to use the name, we say Elephant Walk. Very few. They made more millions than some of the city hotels, smaller in size, but the competency set of the people who are working there are not similar to the city hotel people. It is uniqueness. So you need to understand there's uniqueness. Even to bring uniqueness, you got to be innovative. So therefore you find sometimes when you some organize, what they do is in designing, you copy somebody else's, because this is what the industry do. This is what the 300 hotels do, and therefore we do the same. We have the same cafeteria, whatever. And sometimes you find we are saddled with these situations of industry norms that are having a profounding influence of 4-star hotel, you must have this number of employees. 3-star. So, but what happened is the new technology. Now today you find that industry is being transformed. The travel agents and other things which you had FIT customers, it had been all changed. Today it is on the internet.
Yes.
You put your package onto the net and therein after you administrate. So what you do is now you are playing a different game altogether. Your industry being transformed. So therefore mindful of the fact, kind of a thing. How many of our HR guys is getting to that? Think in terms of that. Now that is where the difference. So the new breed of HR guys should be able to understand not to copy what we did. They should be truly a business people. You must have the entrepreneurial skill set in addition to what you are doing right now.
Absolutely. Today they talk about disruptive innovation. And all the management gurus are getting into disruptive innovation. From an HR point of view, I believe we can seriously create a positive dent. Because innovation is all over. The younger generation, the way they like to work, their habits, all that is very different, and sometimes our customers as well. So in terms of innovation, what have you seen, Pat, around the place that are cutting edge ways of looking at this job design?
I saw very recently, Niroshan, that I was surprised it was. I wonder whether it's too late, but it is coming. Even in the plantation, you get the plucking is done by a machine.
Okay.
So the tea plucking woman is using a machine to pluck.
Okay.
So therefore you find now the old competency set is changing.
All right.
So you find in order to get the best out of the machine, your nippiness, your agility. So therefore you find this different new skill set. Now you find with the innovation, people don't, it's not you are being tech savvy, but your other competence is changing, your agility, ability to spontaneously change, understand the fast changing thing, and gaining speed of doing something. Because you are working with machines now, not with another co-worker.
That's right.
Your partner is sometimes a very intricate, sophisticated machine. So you need to be different now because you are not having this, what do you call that, what do you call interactive warmth and various things where you discuss about you're working with your colleague like you and I right now. But it's different today. Because you find, because our own lives had been changed and it had been influenced to change, so therefore the next generations of people, I would say that the HR people would have to deal with not only on people compounded with machine that they are using in their work.
I see.
So therefore you find when you are preparing your job description, context in which that they work, intrication of the machine that they are using, and also the advancement of these machines to come. Now earlier job description is very simple. What does job do? How does it do? With whom it does? What's the machine it works? Now it is different. You have to go beyond. So therefore you find, so it comes from we say your business would be transformed due to technology, that the industry transformation. So every industry is going through tremendous transformation now. You see, say for an example, the tea plantation, they say it was too slow in modernizing, but the modernization is coming up. Now, manpower planning process change. So the job description. So the type of jobs that are appearing. So it's a whole game of that. So therefore, everyone should be able to understand this now. Say those techniques it would remain the same HR techniques, but in moderation to the changing world. That is where the organization design, as you rightly coined, they come hand in hand.
But apologies, I need to get into the more technical aspects of this. Apologies because they're very rudimentary and fundamental. But I guess because it's common sense, most often people don't have sense about it. What are the absolute important areas in a job description?
You see, now every job must have a purpose statement. Why it exists.
That's right.
So therefore, you and your line manager, if you are a HR guy, need to spend a little more time in terms of the business strategy, in terms of your, whatever the business, the division that you are hiring this person. What's the purpose?
Yeah.
What's the purpose statement? You must be able to write that. As long as this purpose statement remain valid, the job will remain.
Okay.
So that when you're writing a purpose statement, you are not writing purpose statement static.
Okay.
That's the beginning. Second one, you must be able to figure it out. What are the key deliverables you expect from this job? So you write the key deliverables, technical side. Each deliverable, what are the processes that need to be performed?
Okay.
Now for each processes, what's the knowledge required? What are the key skills required? What's the behavior that would complement exercising that behavior, exercising that knowledge and the skill? Okay. So once you do that, you get a whole array of knowledge, varied skill set that are coming in. Then you should be able to describe those, not mere just a term, not mere communication. What kind of a communication?
Yeah.
Now that would give you fairly good job description.
True.
And then you say for an example, in addition to that, what kind of a sophisticated machinery that you use, what are the degree of difficulties performing, what are the personality traits that are required to do this job.
Yes.
And then you do that. But one other thing you must not forget, most importantly, now every job you have certain things like decision making. Every job we take decision because it's a knowledge economy. Every employee. So therefore, if you begin to see that, you should be able to identify the type of decisions.
Okay.
There are certain decisions. I give an example now. You see, say very recently, my TV connection was disturbed by dialogue. Okay. Now I was the first TV contributor about the, so I was very annoyed as to why so many years of why it was because of delayed payment. So I was very angry. I barged into their office, one of those customer care, and they said, "Sir, the decision is taken by the machine. There are no human element of it."
Okay.
I mean, today you find there are most of the decisions are taken by a chip today. So therefore, what is important there is the people who are working, how they design the decision-making process.
Sure.
So therefore, you find it is not really the who makes the decision. It is what kind of information that has been brought in by the people who are performing the job in order to ensure that your business will have the customer experience.
That's right.
Now that's basically. So therefore, there are certain elements. So I might not be able to say that in a couple of minutes but
right.
Every job you should be able to sort of go through that process. Once again, I repeat, purpose statement. What are the key deliverables you expect? Each deliverables, to deliver, you must perform a process. For each process, you must have certain knowledge requirement.
Yeah.
Then you note that. Then certain skills and also the behavior that complement.
Yes.
Then you get whole array of that.
That's right.
Then you bring the other aspects of that, what technology being used, what are the degree of difficulties, if there are other contextual sort of aspects that you have to bring in. Right. So you bring all that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think should be the good, the technical aspects of a job description.
I would think so. Some of the JDs that I see at times lack purpose because the behavioral competencies that have been sculpted have been done so in isolation of the job they do, and purely by the fact that you have been graded, your grading accounts for certain behaviors that need to come in, and therefore you cut and you paste it onto the JD and say you are at level 4 because of your grading, and therefore these are the behaviors that are expected, as opposed to what you are telling us, which is more factual, is your behavior to be able to perform that particular requirement.
That's where you add value. That is where you bring contribution. That is where you keep say for an example, I put it this way. Let me say you and I, we usually place orders for pizza. No?
Okay.
Right. Now, how do they sell? They sell on delivery, speed, and also quality.
Okay.
Now, the man who is at the very end of this process, value-adding process, the guy who is on that chariot delivers it to you.
That's right.
I tell you, if you go and watch one of those well-run organization of pizza delivery, the cyclist, at the end of the day, he ensures the cables are oiled. He ensures tires are again aired. He ensures the tank is full. Next day morning when he comes, he should be able to deliver. Yes. You begin to bring new set of behavior that are business related.
That's right.
Now that's what a good JD should be.
Good. Very good. In other words, all the other building blocks, the auxiliary factors of how the technical competences are mapped, where the behavioral competences are mapped, all this becomes an important integral part of this entire process. But it's also funny, after doing all of that, when you have a sentence at the bottom and any other thing
yes.
that ought to be.
that is where I think, now what? That is one, you see, once somebody asked me very recently, Pat, why most of the HR guys are very keen and spending more time checking the certificates of the candidate?
Okay.
My answer was very blunt. I said, if I cannot gauge you, I will try to rely on somebody else's gauging given to you.
Okay.
Your certificate is certified by someone else. No? When I can't certify you at the interview, by interviewing you, then I will rely on those certificates. So therefore, that's what I say. Sometimes when you can't prepare a good JD, then you say any other. You should be able to spend little more time if there are any other and spend little time and try to probe.
That's right. That's right.
Don't keep, but of course, once again, you find your JD is subject to change.
Yeah.
You should be able to revisit at least, if not once a year, at least twice a year. My recommendation is, whenever you do a job, we say performance review, bring the JD, have a chat with again, and see whether to what extent you should be able to change it.
That's right. That's right.
So therefore, you must be able to sort of update it, shift the priorities differently. You should be able to do wonderful things.
Absolutely. And in the absence of clarity in terms of job, means HR profession cannot actually fundamentally handle all the other tasks.
No, that's a failure, because you find it's important. Good organization design, as you coin. Then along with that, you get your manpower planning.
Yeah.
With that, you get the job analysis and JD and JS. Then you get your recruitment properly done.
That's right.
Then the rest of the things fall. Because you cannot hire a squirrel and try to train him to fly. No, you can't. You should. So therefore, fundamentally, HR guys should be able to, not only HR guy, I must say that all the line managers, kind of people who are managing people should be able to address these fundamental, very critical aspects of HR.
Getting the buy-in of the line management and top management to be able to design organizations that are futuristic. In your experience, what have you seen? Was it easy? Is there a part in terms of communication for the HR person, or is it that the management must realize this buy-in for this process?
In realistic audit,
yeah.
My early upbringing as HR guy, I was nowhere. For the simple reason that I never realized I should be the industry expert. I should be no second to the CEO in terms of business if I were to influence people to accept what I'm saying. Okay. You cannot merely say that I am a HR, so therefore these are the general techniques that we are using. No. You should be able to relate that to the business, make them understand in that sense. So therefore, I think fundamentally, my upbringing early as a HR guy, then I began to realize, you better learn the industry faster. You better begin to relate things even better than them. Then you draw respect, number one. Then you should be able even drive things on your own. To get to that, you need to have varied competencies. You must be a good finance guy. You should know a little bit of finance. You must know a little bit of industrial relations and the legal side of it. You must know about the whatever the industry that you are working, how it works. Good marketeer. You must be a good sales guy. You know, you should be a power-dressed guy. You should not be a kind of person be seen as an, kind of a guy who is a very melancholy, slow-moving HR guy. No. Yeah. You must demonstrate the dynamism. Yeah. And in the absence of a marketing director, you should be able to drive in with the marketing team, so to say. If you can draw that respect, you can make a profounding statement. You can get a seal and say that this is important, let's do it. I think that's how I feel the HR guys should be.
Do you think we're there?
Well, there are some. I must say that, say for an example, new breed of HR guys, young people, I must say that it is probably due to the effort that you guys are making. Even this, I think, program would be able to drive this point so that we begin to play this game on a different pitch. The HR guys. You must bring the professionalism and you should be able to make your seal in the organization that the success of the organization is largely due to how we manage HR.
Absolutely. Words of wisdom, and I'm not sure whether you're saying it or I'm saying it, because my thoughts and your thoughts are very similar in this particular regard. But we have many youngsters who will be watching this as an educational channel and also professionals as well. Many young people are so worried about writing their CVs and updating their CVs in the context of an organization having a well-defined job description and they know what they're looking for now. And from the viewpoint of a youngster who's preparing their CV so that when they start showing it or when they start displaying it, that they will be recognized. What kind of advice can we give these youngsters?
Yeah. Say, if I draw from my experience again, we find quite a number of resumes come in. They call it job application, resume, curriculum vitae, various things. There are very few which can catch the eye. You see, the youngsters must remember this. This is the only way that you can get an invitation to come for an interview. So somebody must see that there is something unique in your resume or something so interesting in your resume that I would like to see this man or this woman.
That's right.
So therefore, when you are preparing a resume, you should be able to study the advertisement or the job description if you have, and find out exactly what are the key things that this job requires. Particularly some jobs, they ask for more experience, and some the qualifications. So you got to differentiate that. Therefore, when you are writing a chronological order, you should be able to know where would you write at what point of your resume.
That's right.
So therefore, that's something that your architecture of the resume. The second thing that you should be able to say, for an example, that you must be able to say your own career objectives very clearly. Because if you are applying for an entry-level job, this is my stepping stone to achieve that. So therefore, my advice to younger people is, if you are young, still in college, you should be able to now itself figure it out. What is the preferred industry? What is my preferred profession?
Yes.
Then you must do a little bit of study how the industry's dynamics works and how this job is evolving. And then you must be able to understand what are the preferred employers that if you have any.
Yes.
What are their value system? How do they business? What's their culture? Looking for a job itself is a job. You need to spend quite good time. I must say that, say for an example, because at the end of the day, you know, in 5 minutes I read a resume, I will make an impression or not.
That's right.
It's a snapshot. Then I would see that, my God, I would like to sort of have further chat with this gentleman. If I don't get that, I may put that aside. And the second thing that the youngsters must know, at a job interview, you are engaging strategic conversation like you and I do.
That's right.
You must be able to conduct a rich conversation. Now, if you have nothing to say at the interview, keep those people spellbound, enthrall them, dazzle me. That's what I tell when people come. Young man, dazzle me now, who you are.
And how do they respond?
Oh yeah, some people quite simply nothing. And some, you know, kind of people, you know, they have many things to say.
Yeah.
Something to say about yourself, your life and your times. What have you done up to this date?
Right.
So therefore you find anyone who is listening to this, an interview is a valuable time we spent for strategic conversation with the guy who is coming to us.
That's right.
We would like that person to make this conversation rich, so that giving us an opportunity to select the best of the best.
Yeah. That's right.
So therefore writing your resume is important, because this is the only way you can get an opening that the organization will invite you for an interview. Then when you come for an interview, then you have, how do you dazzle the interviewers? So therefore, if you come and try to keep like a mama's baby or something like that, then of course you are not getting anywhere. Because today we are people looking for agility, dynamism, you know, futuristic mindset. You see, there are sometimes, you know, I must say that to you, my organization where I have worked many, we always see that if you can come and change the things that we do, that's what we want.
Okay. In an organizational sense, Pat, very few organizations would actually say it and deliver it.
Yeah.
Many would have the catchphrase, and to be able to live those statements is yet another. But I'm glad that you were able to show us both sides of it. The younger generation, since we're there, and maybe we are still there somewhere close to it as well, but their way of looking at things would be very different, and this is going to happen. Whether you want to have a heading called X generation, Y generation, millennials, whatever, there will always be a generational gap. But we find many would say today, in terms of loyalty towards what you do and all of this, is very different. Now, I still draw this question from the viewpoint of this organization design and job design, because the way we look at jobs, like you were saying, very innovative. They don't want to come to work, they want to do virtual jobs, they want to have various types of work and arrangements. Because of this, our organization design and job design will considerably change.
Niroshan, this is what we can't run away from the reality. You see, say for an example, today, not like you and I, we take very few risks in life. Today, young people, they take a lot of risks. For the simple reasons of, because you find the lifestyles have changed, value systems have changed. Those are facts.
Yes.
We all, business people, must be able to acknowledge that. But of course, you know, we are not going to say, for an example, the whole organization design must be just become a spaghetti now. No. We should have certain amount of discipline, decorum. That is where it is important. We are running business. So there are some businesses where it runs on the confidentiality, the professionalism like a bank. Therefore, the people are asked to do that. Yeah. Come neatly dressed to the work, and then, you know, there are things. But supposing a PR work, then of course people wear their earrings and body piercing, but it's another industry altogether.
That's right.
Kind of a thing. So therefore, you find we must be always mindful of that, even though these generic kind of a thinking, in moderation. What fits you? What your customer is seeking? Yeah. You must be always mindful of that. At the end of the day, you are doing a business. So therefore you must bring it. So I put it this way. I know I am not my son. My son is very different. The way my father dealt with me is I am going to deal with my son. But I still remain father. He remains my son. Yes. That's a fundamental. Our relations. So therefore you find all this about how we treat our people is how do we maintain our relations. Now so-called industrial relations, everybody speaks to me. It is how we get along. Simple things. So therefore that I think, yes, the new generations coming, various, kind of we see in literature, things are moving. People are looking for work-life balance, people to work from home. Yes, that's fine. But those also need to be designed.
Okay.
You see, there should be checks and balances of how many hours of quality time is spent at work at home.
Yes. That's right.
So you find there may be system coming in order to ensure whether the man is at work or not. Because there's linkage, no? So therefore those things will come. So I don't think that there would be dramatic kind of change that would take place. But in moderation, those are evolving scenario. I think without our knowledge, we will get there. But what you need to do is we must not stop thinking of that. We should be able to make the first ripple, and then it would come. It would come. That's why. Right. So I think even today, some of the organizations like Flexi Time try to bring certain amount of socialization much more at work. These things are taking place. Every company is just being aware of that.
That's right.
You can see if the newspaper corporate sports meet somewhere in the newspapers.
That's right.
Those are all bringing this work-life balance in a different shape.
That's right.
So I don't think that, but fundamentally what happened here is when those technological changes taking place, supposing global warming stop us, myself coming to you, you would have had this interview, I am at home, you are here.
That's right.
Things would happen. There are compelling reasons to do that. But the fact that remains is how prepare yourself, every organization. Please be mindful, you must be beginning to think about it. Make certain piloting, make certain changes, say with how it's working. You follow what I mean?
Yes.
Say for an example, there are, now I could remember an instance where there are sometimes, say some people say that, well, of course, our employees, our demographics are changing. What do we do? Are we ready? I remember there was an annual report I read in a kind of a dynamic business here. I don't want to mention that here. In that they have said that 80% of our employees are below 30 years of age. Now that is a huge dynamics that you are looking. Yep. Now you find in the 10 years, that means 80% of the workforce is over 40.
That's right.
If they remain. Are we ready? What are the changes that you are making? Now that's a conscious part of that, this organizational design.
That's right.
You bring those dynamics into the decision-making table.
What a wonderful topic. It brings a lot of little building blocks together. Pat, we've discussed many factors, and you've been able to bring clarity to how the job design, the organization design, various types of people that will be joining in, moved out to youngsters and CVs. We actually covered a major gamut of stuff with this entire topic. And I want to personally thank you. It was a wonderful interview to discuss organization design and job design. Mr. Bennett, Patternott, thank you so much for coming and joining us. This was a wonderful session. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much.